Hi friends. Someone once asked me for book recommendations about flower farming. Well, I have a few to go through with you today. Hi, my name is Ruth Ann from Abundant Blooms Flower Farm in Dore, Michigan, and I'm going into my 6th year of flower farming, and this video is going to be all about books about flower farming. So we're just gonna jump right in. The focus of my channel is about selling flowers to florists, and so that's kind of the scope of this channel. I'm so glad that you're here. As you can see, my bookshelf is like empty because I emptied it to show you the books. I'm missing one book that I can't find. I think it's down the basement, but we are gonna jump right into my favorite books. First of all, I love books. Our house has a lot of books and a lot of bookshelves, and I'm a homeschooling mom. I don't know. I grew up with a lot of books. My mother definitely instilled in us the love of books. I love children's books, picture books. I love reading aloud to my children. So I'm kind of a book person if you can't quite, if you haven't quite gathered that. So I'm a little bit of a book collector. I have a list of books that I'd love to get. I certainly don't have them all, but these are some of the books that have shaped kind of my flower farming journey. So we will start at the beginning. My first book about flower farming is, you'll never guess. I know you're all going to be completely shocked. But it's Florette's book, her first book, Cut Flower Garden. It really, honestly, is beautiful, inspirational, and it is copyrighted 2017. I think I bought it in 2018 or 19, so pretty new to her, to it being released. I believe that this was the only one at the time that I first discovered her. So that was my first book, and it really is very inspiring. Like, it's, we all know she's beautiful. It's lovely, right? So it does give you a lot of, grow, harvest, and arrange studying seasonal blooms. It's not a farmer book, but it is all about cut flowers. So that's a really great one. And then I'm just going to kind of go down. This was also another one of my first books when I was looking into starting a flower farm. So Lisa Mason Ziegler, I would say, is like my flower farming mentor. I've taken multiple of her courses from the Gardener's Workshop, and I really have a really high regard. Now, I would say that she probably almost replaced this with a newer book. But I still found this just really cut and dry, to the point. How do I grow? Where do I start them indoors? Can I grow them outside? What zone are they? And just really practical information. And then some general, how to start a flower garden bed, general information as well. This is her other book, or one of her other books, Vegetables Love Flowers. Good book about growing, but it's a lot about why to have a cutting garden. Good book, has a lot of helpful tips for a flower farmer. This is sort of, wrong one. This is sort of like the classic, The Flower Farmer by Lynn Basinski, one of the first books about flower farming, really, from my understanding. And so this is kind of a classic for a lot of flower farmers. So she has really great information, and this is about flower farming, hence the title. So is very helpful, and I still think very applicable. Next one I have I'll just go through the rest of these. I do own the rest of Florette's books. I would say I find this one actually very helpful to give you ideas about different flowers that you can grow at different times. I like this one, but if you're big into growing dahlias, this might be great. I mean, it's a great flower book, right? But dahlias are not a huge crop for me. I grow them, they're not a huge crop for me, but I actually didn't find this one as helpful. I really find these other books of hers quite helpful, just for growing and stuff. Okay, getting a little bit more into the nitty-gritty of farming. So this is Lenny Larkin's book, Flower Farming for Profit, a complete guide to growing successful cut flowers for business, right? So this is a business flower farming book. It is quite good. I have read it. I've also taken Lenny's course. I took it last winter. And she does a pretty good job of talking about farming and planning for profitability and different things. Funny, interestingly enough, I was just talking to somebody about this book and how I kind of got the sense from this book and from Lenny's course that she almost feels like you can't be a successful flower farmer, or the sense that you're leaving something on the table if you're not selling some portion of retail, because that was a huge part of her farm. And I was just talking to another flower farmer about this, about selling wholesale, and I had a lot of the same thoughts when I was actually going through the course, like, oh man, it just seems like I really should be selling some kind of retail. And I actually asked a question in one of the Q&As with Lenny, and she was like, yeah, I didn't really mean for it to sound like that, and I kind of have a little bit different feel on that now. So the only caveat to this is I feel like she kind of boohoos exclusively selling wholesale or selling to direct to florists, which she has done some of. Like she has sold flowers through that sales channel. But I think she's honestly kind of changed her tune on it based on her new location and different things. So just, I think it has a lot of really, really great business information, but don't be discouraged that selling, direct to florists isn't a viable option. Obviously, I just don't, agree with that. I'm making a pile of them over there. Okay, now I've talked about these 3 books before, but I'm going to talk about them again briefly. So if you're a cut flower farmer and you want really good resources for growing and handling cut flowers, processing them, post-harvest, etc., I have 3 books that I think are the viable. This is Alan Armitage's Specialty Cut Flowers. This has a lot of information about growing and production and post-harvest. This is essentially, all about post-harvest. This one is really great pictures in it, and then this is about forcing woodies. It also, the beginning of it has some really great just general information about flower, food, preservative, different post-harvest handling solutions. So I find this one, I use this all the time. I've talked about it before in my how to have high quality cut flowers or something. This is my woody stem book. Again, John Dole, Langrier. It's funny. I enjoy reading this like it's a novel. I guess that's when you're crazy about woodies. So if you're growing a lot of woodies, I would highly recommend this. I didn't get this till several years into flower farming, but okay. Then I have some books about. I do also own this book. It's okay. I wouldn't say this is super, super great about you have to have this to grow a flower farm. It's not they say it's about putting it into, turning it into a farm. It has some good information. It has some really good pictures. It's more about their story, and I really bought it to support them. I enjoy their YouTube. I enjoy their story, and this was coming out right when the tornado destroyed their farm, and so it was a nice way to be able to support them, and it has beautiful pictures. It's well done. It gives a different perspective on things, and I honestly haven't read this one cover to cover, but it's a good one. Okay, now we're gonna kind of delve into a little bit of marketing, copywriting, business books. So this is a really short book, really short. It's called This Book Will Teach You to Write Better. It's essentially a book about copywriting for emails and marketing and your website, and you plus this book equals write better, So basically don't write in full sentences, and how to get people to read your emails, and how to have a conversion rate. It's very short and to the point. I think it's $5 last I looked, or maybe it's more than that now, but it's very inexpensive. This Book Will Teach You to Write Better by Neville Medhora. Anyway, this was recommended by Corinna Bench, my digital farmer, who has a podcast, who's a vegetable CSA farmer. in Ohio who I have learned a lot of marketing stuff. If you listen to the first 10 episodes of her podcast called My Digital Farmer, it's essentially a marketing crash course. And she recommended this book and I bought it. So, but she has really, really helpful information too. Okay, then this one along those same lines also, yeah, this was recommended by Corinna Bench, Marketing Made Simple by Donald Miller. He also has another book called something like Building a Story Brand, I think. And I think that this pertains more to like retail side of things and how to like get a lot of customers and how to market to them and build a story. And but it can, how to generate leads, and it's very actionable. Like, do this exercise. Sorry, I keep going the wrong way. And I just kind of read this with a notebook and really took notes as I was building out my website. It is kind of what I did. It's pretty easy to read, honestly. So, helpful, how to get started with marketing. Then the other book that I don't have here, which is the one I can't find, is down the basement, is Profit First. I really like that book. It's about like budgeting and profit margins, and basically kind of turns the profit on its head, right? Like, so profit doesn't equal income minus expenses. Profit equals, profit. You determine your profit by choosing your profit, and then you have expenses. So basically you're paying yourself first. I've actually considered doing like a book club about that book in the winter, so maybe next winter. So if you're interested in doing a book club style book and of the book Profit First, let me know in the comments, because I think that'd be kind of fun to do. I don't know if we would do it on YouTube or maybe in the private Facebook group Selling Flowers to Florists, which if you're interested in joining that, it's a free private group. You can find the link in the comments. But I don't know, I think it'd be kind of fun to work through some winter. But I have found that book very helpful. It's just a helpful way to look at things, and every time you read it, it's sort of like you're getting, like, you're at a different point, and so you're able to go deeper into having better profit margins. And I definitely set up my bank account in his like reserve, like how he tells you to set up the reserves, and I put percentages into each kind of bucket of my bank account, and from my business account. So I think it's a helpful way to look at things, and just segmenting, and I found it really, really, really helpful, and I think it can be helpful to any business owner. I mean, it's a business book, and so I have found that really helpful. Another book I was just going to share, like an inspirational book. This is Andrew Peterson's God of the Garden. He also has a book called Adorning the Dark, and he just kind of draws on nature, and it's just one of my favorite books. I love reading it. This book in so many ways is a memoir, but it's also an attempt to wake the reader up to the glory of God through the glory of God shining through his creation. So it's a Christian book, so if you're not into that, but it's just super inspirational. I read this one, and Adorning the Dark. I really love it. And it makes me think of my garden in the winter, and just the earth and the seasons and seasonality of things. And so anyway, this is top. I love this book, and he's also a songwriter, and he's written other children's novels that we like all his stuff. So there's that one. And I just thought it'd be kind of fun, because I told you I'm a reader. So like, what do I read? So I actually just finished, I'm going to show you the book. I literally just finished reading last night. I read almost every night before I go to bed. Not necessarily farming things. I try to read different things, but this is the book I just finished. It's actually written by a friend of mine, Steve Edwards. I don't even know if you can actually buy this book, but I thought it was applicable to mention, because so often as I was reading it, which, look, my bookmark is a Band-Aid. I must have children. When I was reading it, it was so interesting to me. So I used to ride horses with Steve. He taught me to ride in Virginia. He's in Smithfield, Virginia area. And so I know the author of this book. It was written, I think in 2003 or something. So it's not 2007. Okay. So it's not a new book, right? It's almost 20 years old. And I was stationed in Virginia when I was like 23, 24, and I owned a horse and rode with Steve, and he rides a lot on all these like logging and hunting property that he has access to. So we would ride. I mean, I rode like 50 miles in a day once, but super cool. He just has such an amazing story, and he's just a really interesting person. And it just was interesting to me because he talks about how like horses are teachers and challengers and whisperers and predators and healers, benefactors, nurturers. And it kind of, I mean, it's a little different, but it's sort of like you can apply a lot of these things to the garden. So anyway, I just thought it'd be fun to share a little bit about my life. And like the latest thing I've literally just read is this book by my friend Steve Edwards, A Little Child Shall Lead Them, and it's about teaching children and natural horsemanship. And Steve's a lawyer, so he just has a really interesting perspective. He actually just retired, so congratulations, Steve. But so anyway, I'd love to know your favorite flower farming books or other books. There are a lot of other really good books out there. I just can't keep up with the buying of books. So I'm sure some of these books are actually kind of expensive. Like these are like $100 books. And if you're not in the United States, these are really hard to get, and I'm really sorry. But if you are in the United States, don't buy these from Amazon. Get them through the AFCFG, the Association of Specialty Cut Flowers, because they're much cheaper through there. So I'd love to know your favorite flower farming books, because it's always fun to know. It is really hard to keep up, or business books. It is really hard to keep up. Like I was like, oh, I want to buy that Sweet Pea book. It looks so great, and there's some other ones I would love to own, but you just can't. I don't know. You just can't have them all. But and so obviously these are literally all books I own. Like these are not from the library, although you can get a lot of these from the library. So that's a really great tip. I actually first got Lisa Mason Sigler's Cool Flower books from the library. And then I was like, oh, I really should have this as a reference book. And so I bought it. So it's a great place to start. Look at your local library. And if your local library doesn't have it, request that they get the book. At least in my experience, I've requested a book a couple times, and they've almost always gotten it. And somehow I heard something from the I guess maybe a librarian told me. She said like 90% of the time that somebody puts in a request, they fill it or something. Like they almost always fill that request. So anyway, so that's a great tip. So other great tips are, if you want my tips on selling flowers to florists, there's a download in the description of free tips for selling flowers to florists. So you can get my greatest tips. We're about to start the season, or maybe some of you are really close to starting the season. I don't even have tulips out of the ground yet, so we're not quite there yet, but I do have daffodils up, and I don't know, it's 50 degrees out. I opened the door of the main big door of my hoop house yesterday for the first time since December, and I just literally got an alert on my phone that it's 57 degrees in there. So, we're starting to look up here in West Michigan. And I hope you are too. I really wanted to bring you a video about direct seeding. I tried 2 times to go out and direct seed this week, like an actual me in the garden video. And I couldn't do it because the first time I went out, it was literally frozen. Like the top, like 1/8 of an inch of soil wasn't. And I was like, oh, I can't do it. And then the next time I went out, which was yesterday, it was too muddy. And now we've gotten like an inch of rain overnight. So some point I'm going to bring you a video about direct seeding. I love direct seeding. I'm going to tell you all about it in that video, so look for that. As soon as I can get out in the garden and direct seed some things this spring, I will bring that to you. I forgot my new fun thing. Let's put the book emoji in the comments if you made it to the end. And congratulations, you have made it to the end. You are now in the end club. I'll see you next time.